culture of Saskatchewan views the patterns of human activity in the central prairie province of Canada, examining the way people live in the geography, climate, and social context of Saskatchewan. First Nations and fur traders adopted a transhumance and hunting and gathering lifestyle to fulfill their economic and sustenance needs. Early homesteaders and settlers in the 19th and early 20th centuries likewise spent the majority of the time proving up the homesteads, tilling the land and providing subsistence agricultural products for the families. The early 20th century developed successful agricultural practices, and society rejoiced in the Roaring Twenties. The Depression and drought years of the Dirty Thirties took agricultural sustenance away. The Industrial Revolution, which came with the Second World War, developed some mechanized improvements in both traveling and agricultural labor saving devices. Electricity became established throughout the various Saskatchewan regions. The economy saw a growth not only in the agricultural sector, but labor was freed up to also pursue choices other than agriculture. A major breakthrough was seen in the arts and culture scene in Saskatchewan from the 1940s onward. Arts and cultural activities before this date were of the main on a family, individual and unpaid level. Local schools would host plays, family or tribal members would engage in handcrafts of various sorts which may become heirlooms. Communities would come together for engagement in various sports activities for recreation. The Royal Commission on National Development in the Arts, Letters and Sciences prepared the Massey Report in the early 1950s. This commission noted the strengths and weakness of the cultural community and led to the establishment of the Canada Council, which promoted burgeoning talent. The Saskatchewan government also showed support on a cultural level, with the creation of the Arts Board, and promotion of the Golden Jubilee celebrations hosted in 1955. Museums and cultural institutions. There are numerous heritage and cultural attractions in the province of Saskatchewan. Museums, dinosaur digs, Aboriginal cultural and heritage sites, art galleries, professional sport venues, spas, handcraft, antique and tea shops, agricultural tours, live theatres and archaeological sites comprise over 600 varied Saskatchewan institutions. Saskatchewan is home to 2 prominent spas, in Moose Jaw and Watrous, 10 provincial historical parks and 7 main national historic sites. Along with the Saskatchewan Western Development Museums, there are over 200 local pioneer heritage museums. Traveling exhibits help to supplement the permanent groupings of each institution. The Saskatchewan Museum of Natural History officially opened in Regina in the spring of 1955. See also Museums in Saskatchewan, the Evolution of Education Museum, Historical Society Museum, Mendel Art Gallery, RCMP Heritage Centre, Rotary Museum of Police and Corrections, Royal Saskatchewan Museum, Saskatchewan Railway Museum, Saskatchewan Western Development Museum, St. Petro Mohila Institute, Saskatoon Arena, Waynescuan Heritage Park. Development of Saskatchewan culture. The Saskatchewan lifestyle and culture was interrelated with and depended on the ethnic block settlement, geophysical area and rural or urban community. Saskatchewan culture has historically been heavily influenced by English, German, Ukrainian, Russian, French, Irish, Scottish and Aboriginal cultures and traditions, and over time has been greatly influenced by American culture due to its proximity and the interchange of human capital. Aboriginal influences. See also category Aboriginal peoples in Saskatchewan, category First Nations in Saskatchewan, category Dean culture, Saskatchewan Archaeological Society, jingle dress, Clovis culture and prehistoric primitive culture is depicted in archaeological findings. The nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle of the First Nations developed leather working as a necessity for clothing. Trading fur for beads developed a new handcraft of beadwork and weaving. The First Nations of Saskatchewan are still renowned for their powwow dance, drumming and music. Bilingualism, multiculturalism, foreign influences, American influences. For more information on the earliest inhabitants and explorers of Saskatchewan, see History of Saskatchewan, Immigration and Settlement Era, History of Immigration, Western Canada, Ethnic Groups in Canada, Friends of Squaw, Demographics of Saskatchewan, Blog Settlement, p. Canadian-American Relations. Clifford Sifton established colonial offices in Europe and the United States to encourage immigration from Britain and the United States, and by Ukrainians, Dukobas, and other groups from the Austrian Empire to populate the Canadian West. Between 1891 and 1914 was the largest influx of immigration to the Northwest Territories and the province of Saskatchewan. The French Emir Qtis in Duck Lake and St. Louis was of 1870, Capel Farming Colony and Bell Farm of 1880, Cannington Manor of 1882, East London Artisans Colony of 1884, the New Alsace German Block Colony of 1885, New Stockholm Swedish Colony of 1885, Rosthern Mennonite Colony of 1893, Montmartre, Grenfell Galician Settlement of 1896, and the Good Spirit Lake Doukhobor Annex of 1899 are just a few of the earliest ethnic bloc settlements established in the 19th century in the early Northwest Territories. Ethnic bloc settlements of this early time concentrated on developing their agricultural methods, and then establishing churches and schooling. Religion and education was based on what they knew from the home country. World War I showed that there was a need for a common identity and language in Canada and the West. Schools established a provincial curriculum and standard language. The cultural identity shifted from the homeland to creating a new society and culture with a single unifying language to aid economics and social growth. World War II again emphasized the need for an identity which was truly and uniquely Canadian, which was also a desired norm in Saskatchewan. Geography, climate, and immigration. See also Geography of Saskatchewan. Northern Saskatchewan is home to the dune and archaeological findings such as the Aboriginal rock paintings of the Churchill River, petroglyphs, as well as history of early trading posts such as Stanley Mission. The Palliser expedition described an arid geographic region unfit for human habitation known as the Palliser's Triangle. The first capital of the Northwest Territories moved from Fort Pitt to Battleford, Saskatchewan Provisional District, near the northern tree line, and the main economic industry of fur trapping were the fastest-growing trading posts and early settlements such as Prince Albert. The first survey for the Transcontinental Railway was between Winnipeg and Edmonton through the settled areas of Battleford and Prince Albert. In southern Saskatchewan, the land was suitable for early ranching and cattle grazing enterprises. Ranchers replaced grazing buffalo herds with large spreads and community pastures. Sparse population dotted the southern landscape in the 19th century. Among the First Nations, the 49th parallel north was nicknamed the Medicine Line because of its seemingly magical ability to prevent U.S. soldiers from crossing it. The Big Muddy Badlands have a reputation for outlaw history and hideout caves. The Canadian Pacific Railway Sioux Line Railroad arrived in Moose Jaw in 1882 from Chicago, giving Moose Jaw the moniker of Little Chicago. Gangsters such as Al Capone used the tunnels of Moose Jaw for bootlegging in the Prohibition years 1917 to 1924. Chinese immigrants used the tunnels as hideaways and homes during an era of anti-Chinese sentiments. The rise of the Cypress Hills Massacre, bootlegging activities, outlaws and gangsters outrunning the United States law gave rise to new fort outposts such as Fort Walsh and Royal Northwest Mounted Police Barracks, the history of which is recounted at the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Centennial Museum. The July 8, 1874 March West brought law and order to the southern area of Saskatchewan. The Dominion government and Canadian Pacific Railway now examined the report given by John McCoon, botanist, to the 1872 Sanford-Fleming Railway route expedition. Settlement could be established under the safety of the RCMP and this new promise of agricultural colonization. So constructing a southern transcontinental railway helped maintain the Canadian identity near the 49th parallel north, which was under encroachment by the American expansionists. Central Saskatchewan recounts the history of the various battles of the Northwest Rebellion at Batoche and Fort Carlton. Regina attained national prominence in 1885 during the Northwest Rebellion, despite the fact that the Canadian Pacific Railway had still only reached the formerly designated territorial headquarters of Troy some 30 miles to the east. As the railways arrived, Sault immigrants arrived in greater quantities than via Red River cart, via trail and ferry. Ethnic block settlements and communities situated on the rail line grew quickly. Immigrants settled near others who they could communicate with, so those of like languages settled together for neighborly homestead improvements, harvesting cooperation, and economic necessity. Rural living patterns. Primary industries were agriculture in the rural south and central region, fishing and forestry in the rural northern region. The Dominion Land Act of 1872 offered pioneers an opportunity to prove up a quarter section of land in Western Canada for a $10 filing fee. The improvements needed to acquire the land were labor-intensive, and settlers farmed in family groups or ethnic block settlements of the same language to assist one another. Early homesteaders grew mainly subsistence crops which would feed their own family and livestock. Pioneer activities supported harvest work groups, recreational sports, pioneer farm exhibitions, rodeos and community dances to provide support and social interaction for isolated neighbors who lived a 1/4 mile apart from each other. The Industrial Revolution modernized the farming industry as mechanized vehicles replaced the long hours of oxen-plowed land or the horse-drawn cart. Farms became much larger, a mechanized evolving towards industrial agriculture. Urban living patterns. Moose Jaw became the first city of Saskatchewan in 1903. Pile Lowbones, renamed Regina in 1882, was declared the territorial capital in 1883, became a city in 1903, and the capital of Saskatchewan in 1906. Prince Albert attained city status next in 1904. The Bar colonists arrived in Saskatoon in 1883, the Qu'Appelle, Long Lake and Saskatchewan Railway in 1890, and Saskatoon attained city status in 1906, and is presently the province's largest city. The urban centers brought a mix of ethnic and religious settlers, and those who weren't agricultural homesteaders but who brought with themselves a trade or professional calling. Regina developed around the newly formed legislature and Northwest Mounted Police Barracks. Saskatoon developed around the arrival of the three major rail lines, becoming the central hub city for supplies both to Alberta and Manitoba but also to industry north and south. Primary industries were agriculture in the rural south and central region, fishing and forestry in the rural northern region, and mining of various capacities throughout the province depending upon resources available at each site. The Depression and drought years of the Dirty Thirties brought folks beset by agricultural hardships to the cities for a dire hope of employment. Secondary make-work industries were on the rise, such as manufacturing and construction. Many hotels and bridges were built by this large supply of labor in this time. With the advent of the Industrial Revolution after World War II, agricultural output went up with a decrease of labor methods. The supply of workers increased for tertiary employment sectors such as transportation, trade, finance and services, which were mainly based in urban centers. Architecture. The notable architectural achievements have been preserved as historic and heritage sites. The architecture varies from Anglican Gothic Revival mission churches, Romanesque Revival post offices, chateau-style rail stations and hotels, Byzantine-style basilica, Ukrainian Catholic cathedrals. Film and television. See also Saskatchewan Film and Video Classification Board. By the mid-1950s, there were just over 150 radio broadcast stations operating nationwide across Canada. Canada first received television broadcasts in 1952 at Montreal and Toronto. There are currently 9 separate television stations in Saskatchewan. Film encompasses individual motion pictures, the field of film as an art form, and the motion picture industry. $7.80 admission fees, and 16 motion pictures were viewed by the average Canadian in 1954. Saskatchewan residents thereafter developed their own films and the Saskatchewan Film Development Corporation, Saskatchewan Production Studios, as well as the Yorkton Short Film and Video Festival. The Canada-Saskatchewan Production Studios located in Regina that has been used for the production of both movies and television programs and are still used today in society. Film and television productions done at the Canada-Saskatchewan Production Studios include Falling Angels, Corner Gas, Beyond Corner Gas, Tales from Dog River, Tideland, Sabbatical, The Messengers, How I Married My High School Crush, It's Been a Gas, Dolan's Cadillac, Walled-In, Insecurity, Theatre. The earliest drama selections were of the Christmas school pageants, which early one-room schoolhouse teachers would assemble and present with the assistance of student and parent. The Socialista, Red Devils, Ghosts, West Country, or the Coteau Hills Finnish Socialist Society settled around 1923 in the Steeldale district of Saskatchewan. They would gather in halls and produce local plays. Several early Saskatchewan communities, including Wolseley and Hanley, would construct opera houses to encourage drama production in the early 20th century. The Dominion Drama Festival, which showcased a national competition amongst Canadian amateur theatre groups, was held in Regina in the mid-1950s. Thereafter the Regina Little Theatre and Theatre Saskatchewan formed. Theatre and Saskatoon are synonymous with names such as Henry Wolf, actor and artistic director, and Bob Hinnett, drama organizer of Castle Theatre, Aidan Bowman Collegiate, the Persephone Theatre, 25th Street Theatre, Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan, and the Globe Theatre produce professional theatrical shows for the Saskatchewan community today. Visual arts. Early explorers and adventurers were enticed to the Northwest Territories by paintings by Paul Kane, who depicted a romantic west of adventure. As early as the 1955 summer season, the Regina College Summer School at Emma Lake reached national prominence. Augustus Kenderdine, Inglis Sheldon Williams, Illingworth Kerr, James Henderson, Ernest Lindner, Jan Wires, Dorothy Knowles and William Perret are all well-known and acclaimed Saskatchewan artists. Kenneth Lockhead, Arthur McKay, Ronald Bloor, Douglas Morton and Ted Godwin became known as the Regina Five. Joe Fafford, Jack Shaw's, and Vic Sikansky make ceramics and sculpture the visual art form media. Painters Bob Boyer and David Thaberger, as well as sculptor Billy Peepy and the brothers Hu Wang Zhong Yang and Hu Wang Zhong are noteworthy as well. Mackenzie Art Gallery. Regina is the only major currently functioning art gallery in the province known to bring in major shows from other galleries. Saskatoon's now defunct Mendel Art Gallery Saskatoon ceased operations in 2015 with no known opening date for a new gallery. Prince Albert, North Battleford, Moose Jaw and York all have public galleries. Media. The Saskatchewan Herald, a Battleford newspaper, was the province's first paper and was started in 1878 by Patrick Gammy Laurie. Nicholas Flood Davin founded the Regina Leader in Assiniboia Provisional District, Northwest Territories, as early as 1883. Other Northwest Territories pre-provincial newspapers were the Moose Jaw Times, Northwest Territories Gazette, Prince Albert Times, Capel Progress, Capel Vidit, Saskatoon Sentinel and the Saskatoon Phoenix. Dance. The First Nation Musqueam of Saskatchewan are still renowned for their powwow dance, drumming and music. Early pioneer immigrants would enjoy local barn dances with local musical talent who played old-time music, and folks enjoyed square dances, polkas, waltzes and ethnic dances. Saskatchewan Dance Theatre in Saskatoon and Regina. Modern dance works in Regina are few of current Saskatchewan dance forms and schools. Music. See also Music of Canada's Prairie Provinces, Music of Saskatchewan. All of the First Nations in Saskatchewan encompass formal musical styles such as the Regina Symphony Orchestra, Saskatoon Symphony Orchestra, South Saskatchewan Youth Orchestra, Saskatoon Youth Orchestra and the Saskatchewan Music Festival Association. There are also local talented musicians who have become professional on the international stage. A very few of these would be Joni Mitchell, Chris Riddle, Buffy St. Marie, Connie Caldor, Don Freed, Colin James, Jack Semple, Brad Johnner and the band of Jason Plum and the Willing. Brenda Baker is an award-winning Saskatchewan songwriter, performer as well as author. Festivals and events. See also Mosaic Conifest, Craven Country Jamboree, Regina Folk Festival, Regina Dragon Boat Festival. Chautauqua Movement was an early pioneer traveling tent show of arts and entertainment. Agricultural shows are public events showcasing the equipment, animals, sports and recreation associated with the occupations of agriculture and animal husbandry. The largest of these comprise a livestock show, a trade fair and other competitions and entertainment which have been popular throughout the history of Saskatchewan. Craven Country Jamboree, the Saskatchewan Festival of Words in Moose Jaw, Saskatoon Fringe Festival, Saskatoon Jazz Festival, Saskatoon Children's Festival, Ness Creek Music Festival, the Regina Folk Festival, the North Battleford Crafts Fair, Regina's Cathedral Village Arts Festival, Northern Saskatchewan Games and Cultural Festival and the Fort Capel Midsummer Arts Festival are just a few of the several hundreds of community festivals held at various times throughout the province. The Regina Arts Commission is just one of the many organizations formed to support festivals and their creation. Food. Pemmican and bannock are a few of the historical foods of the Cree First Nation Aboriginal peoples. Bannock is easy to prepare and combine with local berries. The dough can be cooked over the open fire suspended on willow stick, and tastes similar to biscuits. Early settlers survived by learning from the First Nations which flora and fauna of the land were edible and how to prepare. Thereafter, the land was tilled, and agricultural practices and trading economies allowed each ethnic group to plant and cultivate the foods necessary for the recipes of the home land. Each ethnic group has brought the unique flavor and recipes to Saskatchewan, and these are celebrated today in folk festivals across the province. Education. Colleges and universities. The University of Saskatchewan granted bachelor's degrees in fine arts as early as the late 1940s. The University of Regina also exists. People. Campbell, Maria, playwright. Crawford, Joanne, Minister of Culture, Youth and Recreation. Neat.B. Miss Hilda Marianada, M.A., Ph.D., Professor of History and Acting Head of the Department, University of Saskatchewan, was appointed to the Royal Commission on National Development in the Arts, Letters, and Sciences, 1949. Siggins, Maggie P. Canadian journalist. Spore, Arnold, Saskatchewan ballet dancer awarded Order of Canada. Stetchison, Savla, Ukrainian culture. Wagner, Norman, Saskatchewan-born, founded the School of Religion and Culture. Wettelau Feoid, the father of Saskatchewan archaeology. Provincial symbols. See main articles category. Provincial symbols of Saskatchewan, coat of arms of Saskatchewan, flag of Saskatchewan, symbols of Saskatchewan. Political economy. The largest contribution by politics to the culture of Saskatchewan was the introduction of Medicare by Tommy Douglas. Premier Douglas' most notable achievement, the introduction of universal Medicare legislation in 1961 to the province of Saskatchewan. In 1964, Justice Hall recommended the nationwide adoption of Saskatchewan's model of public health insurance. Prizes and awards. See also Commemorative Medal for the Centennial of Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan Order of Merit, Saskatchewan Arts Board, the Greatest Canadian, Governor-General's Literary Awards. Saskatchewan Arts Board formed in 1948 to develop arts and recognition of artists in the province. Sports. See also Sports in Saskatchewan, Sport in Saskatchewan, Soccer in Canada, National Sports Teams of Canada. Curling is the official sport of Saskatchewan, and was played there before the formation of the province in 1905. Curling ice rinks are the center of most Saskatchewan communities. The official national summer sport is lacrosse, which was invented by Aboriginal peoples. Ice hockey is official national winter sport. Saskatchewan Roughriders is the professional Canadian Football League sports team. The Roughriders are the most popular sports team in the province. The highest level of hockey in the province are the teams of the Western Hockey League, Moose Jaw Warriors, Prince Albert Raiders, Regina Pats, Saskatoon Blades, and Swift Current Broncos. Many world-class hockey athletes have roots in Saskatchewan, such as Gordie Howe, Brian Trottier, Clark Gillies, Max Bentley and Wendell Clark amongst several other National Hockey League players. There exist a few amateur baseball teams in the Western Major Baseball League. Soccer is currently making inroads as a fast-growing sport. Saskatchewan hosts auto racing on the Saskatchewan International Raceway drag racing course, Bridge City Speedway in Saskatoon, and Kings Park Speedway of Regina, which both feature thunderstock and street stock racing. Bowling takes several forms in Saskatchewan, including 10-pin and lawn bowling, and 5-pin bowling. Golf is a widely enjoyed recreational sport across Saskatchewan, and the golf courses feature cross-country ski trails in the winter months. Weyburn hosted the 2004 Saskatchewan Summer Games and Lloyd Minst the 2008 Saskatchewan Summer Games. Prince Albert hosted the 1993 North American Indigenous Games and Saskatoon the 1971 Canada Winter Games and 1989 Canada Summer Games. There are also university, junior high school and recreational athletic teams and sports across Saskatchewan.